Jones was born and raised in California's wine country, which explains a lot if you've been watching him at the bar all night. But he can trace his heritage all the way back to Oklahoma in the 30s, where his people did some bad shit, and now he's from California. Not okay, okay? He may have read the Bible too much as a kid. Any reading, okay, no. I'm just gonna skip across that. So now, after that, his favorite books are all by Cormac McCarthy. One sexy ass old motherfucker, right? His story, The Party, about bad things happening to children was published in issue 1 of Hrmonium last year. He lives in Vallejo, California with his wife Annamarie, a lovely woman, by the way. She's great. Let's have her out here sometime. Where there is not a single bookstore. No joke. Well, there's the occult bookstore, but that doesn't really count. So please welcome Aaron Jones.
Good, I can still read. 4 pages, I'm going to read the whole piece. Heart by Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
I bought 2 pounds of thick muscle, a cow's heart. When we, my wife and friends and I, got home, I cleared a section of gray-yellow counter space and set out a wood cutting board, an iron mallet, and a small chef's knife. The heart in the package looked like any other hunk of meat until I cut the packaging off, flipped the heart over, and investigated. Tubes, canals, no bones, ligament fields, large swaths of the stuff you spend 10 minutes chewing before you swallow or spit, and gelatin blood strands, glorious gore. I cut off the tubing, the spires and internal wires that hold the heart firm behind the cow's ribs, while the ligament fields I crisscrossed with my knife tip to soften up, still chewy but easier to bite clean. The heart had 2 major muscle sections, the atriums and the ventricles, a seemingly small engine for a half-ton animal. That is, until you start cutting and feel the strength inherent in the fibers. The heart is tough, but so tightly wound that it springs apart at the knife's suggestion, tearing itself apart under its own strength, bungee cords snapping as the powerful muscles shred themselves. I set one half aside and steadied the thick, hard flesh on my cutting board. My fingers gripped the thin metal shaft of the mallet, landing on the handle like I'm pushing scales down the keys of a piano, and I slammed the heart fortissimo, twisting and flinging the metal block into the meat, turning protein into paper. The large organ piece is hammered flat, a dish rag, tiny holes and perforations. The kitchen is bespeckled. The microwave has little bits of love splattered on the handle and glass, like someone microwaved an uncovered bowl of marinara on the outside of it. The white kitchen wall is polka dotted, and I need to change my shirt and wash my face. The round is now flat, and I spread it out like dough, pushing the edges to the ends of the cutting board, then take up the chef's knives, and with the inverse of my smashing, gently guide the blade through the dough like a pastry chef sharing lines of raw baklava. The meat is drizzled, ribboned. When you take the meat and slice it, you tenderize it further, cutting against the grain. The thin strips of heart go into a mixing bowl. Olive oil, red wine, cumin, paprika, lime and sugar go in too. Salt, pepper, and I am mixing the spices and fluids with slices and shreds, folding stringy flesh over itself, flavors confusing and blending. Into the fridge, 12 hours long enough to make sure that the heart tastes more like steak than organ meat. The next day, the meat has a soft, mellow red smell, earth, local grapes, and Spanish olive oil. The paprika and cumin are Mediterranean, halfway between India and Spain, melting ground for interesting flavors. In a Persian style, I weave my ribbons onto wooden needles, back and forth, layered and wide, pressed close so that they cook as one piece of meat, not many. I took the heart apart and I put it back together, but better, tastier, less gamey, spicier, lovely, beautiful, perfect. Take a despised thing and cut it up. Then you can make it wonderful and special. My coals burn until half gray, middle-aged charcoaled mesquite, very hot for blackening my skewers, and I set the little heart poles over the bed of fire on thin wire racks on a $15 hibachi grill. I squat over my semi-creation, my combination of elements, my machination, where once there was only foul-tasting and chewy rubber meat. Now there are delicate little skewers that taste like they were freshly pulled off a creviced, bronze-faced, poor Persian street grill. A man that morning who pounded out a donkey's heart into a dish rag and set it aflame next to kidneys, lungs, and legs. My communion, the one I believe in. We aren't kneeling at the cross or praying to the east. We are smashing a fucking goat into breakfast, breaking a body, lighting our fires early in the day. Shut up. The olive oil browns, the meat in the heat, the edges burn, the meat sizzles and cooks. The heart is beating again in chorus with the heat waves. Embers burst, fire up, then quiet with each drip of oil and wine, and wafting up I smell the street of another city, the smell of another man's life. My cement porch is the cracked asphalt of someone else's beautiful dry country. I prepare a curry on the side, as patient as I have ever been, with finely diced carrots, onions, celery, chicken stock. The sauce is cooked down to half reduction, intensifying the flavor, homogenizing it by disintegrating the vegetables into broth. I pull the heart skewers with a silver fork. Grainy locks of red meat, crisp and tender, full of wine and grease, cumin-crusted, sugar glazed, and a taste that hints at a divine presence, or at least a deeper meaning or purpose in the food of the world. I chew a full mouth once, a single grind and circulation of the molars, and the hard heart disintegrates in my mouth, a poor man's meat as tender as tenderloin.